and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turn Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them.
Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you.
Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of flesh. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this storm is coming, I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could you be that real as I say? No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, 92.9 Sits Around Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you who are joining us on the live video stream, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever it is that you are joining us from. Good morning to you. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning in the Spice Isle of Grenada. No better place to be than here right now. And of course, with me in studio this morning, I have none other than my co-host, Mr. Roland Bowler. Good morning, Mr. Bowler.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan, and good morning to all our listeners out there. We're happy to be joining you this morning again. We do hope that over the past night you have slept well, you have spent a good night, you're well rested very well rejuvenated and is prepared to face the challenges of another day. We thank God that we still have life today. We thank God that we are in the land of the living. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us do good things. Let us continue to work, not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of each other, for the benefit of our communities, our country, the region at large, and the world over. We're happy that you can join us. And those of you who knows that your friends oftentimes join, give them a little link up, give them a call, send them a WhatsApp, send them a message, a notification, letting them know that Hard Talk is on and that the discussion continues today. Good morning, all.
All right. And of course, we're going to get right into it because for some reason, Mr. Bola, 2 hours in the beginning seemed like such a long time. Now we don't have enough time in the day to get everything that we want said, and of course to get the views of of everyone out there that wants to give an opinion or an input. So we want to get the ball rolling pretty early this morning, but there is something, Mr. Bola, that I do want to just mention quickly that I'm a little bit disappointed with, and of course it has to do with the ongoing industrial struggle regarding the public workers, the public service, the civil service, and government, as it relates to the 4% increase. And it took me some time to, because when I start speaking of education and these things, I get a little bit heated. So it takes me a while for me to just process it before I speak about it. So it doesn't come across in the wrong way, because I never mean at any time, or we never mean at any time to bash anybody, and as we've always said here, teachers have a right, public workers have a right to rally for, to be disappointed about this 4% increase debacle. However, I do want to, and I had this conversation with an individual yesterday, and it was like, well, government signed an agreement for them people to get their money, so they need to just give them their money because they signed the agreement. So what they signed the agreement for if they know they wasn't going to give them the money? That was the statement. That was the person's sentiment. And I had to explain to that person in the best possible way that when this agreement was signed in 2019, if I have the date correct, in 2019,
I think it was late 2018.
Late 2018.
Yeah, because they got the first disbursement, because it's a 3-year period.
3-year period.
2019, 2020. No.
2020,
21, and 22.
And 22.
Okay, right. So you are correct. It's 2019. Yes.
Right. When this agreement was signed and sealed in 2019, nobody, he didn't see it, I didn't see it, government didn't see it, public workers didn't see it, the world at large did not see or foresee us being in the situation that we are in currently. And that is something, and it's the driving force behind why they have asked for or requested for this deferral. The fact that we are in a situation that nobody foresaw, that nobody ever dreamed. And even if they saw, okay, well, we have a new disease or a new virus on the horizon, nobody anticipated it to be this bad, And I had to explain to the gentleman that when the agreement was signed in good faith, nobody foresaw us being in this situation. Government didn't see, okay, well, we have a pandemic down the road, and so let we just sign it because we know that in 2020 and 2021, we won't be able to pay them. So let we just sign it anyway. Nobody saw it. And I think when the unions are speaking to their, because you see, and that's what leadership is about, Mr. Bola. It's about being able to reason with, provide information to your the people whom you represent, so that they can make the right decision based on the information. Because if you are telling me, oh, well, we deserve it and they signed for it, so government must give us. If that is what you are going to your people with, it's obvious they're going to say, yes, well, it's we money, we want it. But if you go with the right mind and the right intention in mind to let them know, hey, listen, this is the situation. these are the circumstances that government has been faced with. This is the reason why they are unable to, and they understand, they know because they wrote a letter.
And that's what I was going to ask you to please pull up the letter again, because in that letter they said that they understand and they agreed that government gave the rationale. And thank you for saying that. Although someone just sent a note saying that they send their child to school, because as we have said in the beginning, that we know they are going to engage in what I call, and that's just me calling it that way, soft protest. Not no outright strike, doing things that are going to interfere with the normal way that school functions, that are going to be disruptive and so forth. And somebody just sent something on the live saying that they're vexed because they send a child to school and then there is no teacher, because today, based on the week's activity, today is supposed to be what they call sick day. Sick day, because it's from Tuesday. It's a number of different things on every day. Tuesday was supposed to be no talk day, so teachers will go into the school but don't talk. And there were some children reporting that all they did was sign language. But there are some other schools, and we must make that differentiation, that there are some schools and some teachers who are actively teaching and engaging their children. And despite there is a protest on day, which I guess most of them support because they are in the service and in the system, they probably in their conscience feel that is not the correct thing to do, understanding that because of the virus and what has happened throughout 2020 moving into 2021, and prior to that, when there was also some struggles between the employers and the unions and the teachers and the public servants about this whole back pay issue, where they had differences in opinion of interpretation, and so that you had a very kind of broken school term. 2020 was worst off because of COVID, several weeks of lockdown, and then when you reintroduced and went back to school, there was days when children were going, or some children were going and others were. So you had a really, really bad year for the children. So I think some teachers are very conscious of that and mindful of the fact that the children are the one who will suffer the most, and some of them are engaged actively in teaching. So on Tuesday was supposed to be no talk day. Yesterday should have been no text day. So in terms of those the students who should have received their classes and so virtually, most teachers was off. They weren't online. They weren't sending work, because it's no text day. Today should be sick all day. In other words, teachers are reporting sick, and anytime they feel well, they can go into the school. So if at 10:30, 12, 1 o'clock, whatever, you feel well, you can attend school, but you're sick out this morning. And then tomorrow, being Friday, is supposed to be silent march from the stadium. But I don't know. The thing I didn't get is what time the march is called for. Whether it's during normal school hours, after school, 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. I did not get that.
Master Paula, I'm laughing to keep myself from getting upset, and I'll tell you why. Now, I understand, and I'm trying to choose my words because I'm in my feelings right now. So I want to try to choose my words wisely, because as a parent, I am very pissed at this moment, upset beyond measure. The people on the live looking may not see it on my face, but as a parent, I am mad. I'll tell you why I'm mad. Most people know that my daughter is very immunocompromised.
I don't know that most people know that.
Well, to those who don't know.
And why should they?
To those who don't know, the people who've been following, because I've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
To those who don't know, my daughter is very immunocompromised. So it is a risk for me as a parent to send my daughter to school at any given time. Now, I don't mind the virtual learning, because for me, I feel like if there's virtual learning, then she has less interaction with people and she still gets her schoolwork done. So that's fine for me. But I didn't know that there was a sick out today. My daughter has to go to school today. So you understand why I'm in my feelings.
No, but a lot of people don't know, because the union said which they normally would do, send a circular around so that the teachers would know that it get leaked out. So what they did was word of mouth. And it could be that some teachers probably never even got the word, but it was something that that came into the making late last week and started from Tuesday. Now, I was going to address something that someone said, that they were so mad and so vexed and that they will remove the child from public school and put it. I just want to say to that individual, you have all right to be angry because you probably has gone to work or wherever, send your child into school, expect the teachers to be there, whichever school that is, and to be taking the care that they normally have to and normally will take care of your children. And maybe you got a report that there's no teacher in the school or few teachers, whatever the case is, because the person didn't go on to explain all of that. What I want to say to that person, that they should not make a major decision when they are angry, because they said so in the message that they send, that now they're mad, they vex, and you know, they will go do everything to find the money. So don't make a decision when your emotions are high. Calm down, take it easy. It may just be an impasse. They may do it this week. I don't know what will happen next week. All I'm advising is that parents should not make major decisions at this time while they are in an angry state.
Well, and I could relate to what the individual is saying, because as parents, you get up in the morning, you dress your children for school, you provide them with what they need to be provided with so that they can make their way to school and everything should be fine. But, Mr. Bola, for the parents who are struggling, let's talk about those parents who have not worked in months, who are taking the little means and that they have to send their children to school, to make the sacrifice to do that today, only for them to go down there and be unproductive. Even when they had the what was it, the day of silence or whatever like that.
That was Tuesday.
Yes, because I heard of that and I was like, well, I don't understand what nonsense this could possibly be. That a parent would send their child to school with the hopes that their child would engage in productive interaction with their teacher. And I heard some teachers in the classroom making sign language. And
well, you shouldn't be talking. That's what the unions ask them to do. And someone is saying there on the live, wonder if there are ulterior mind, that there are ulterior motives. And let me make it absolutely clear, and maybe you should pull up the letter again that the Grenada Union, and read it again. I've said before, and I want to repeat that since that the subject matter has come up again. Most of us, and most public servants, I believe, as the letter said, they are disappointed. Should be. If someone has or owes me some money, or it could be anything else, and gave a promise to me, agreed with me that they will do it and give it to me by such and such time, and when that time came, they then said they couldn't, for varying reasons. As good as those reasons are, I can be upset and probably disappointed. But after being disappointed, as we oftentimes say, after the emotional outburst, we allow the intellect to take charge, and then you say, look, but if the person really don't and cannot find it, where would they get it from to give it to me? And sometimes it is not because the person don't want to, but let us presume that individual themselves was waiting on another person who they supplied with some goods or some kind of service to be paid, and that other individual got and couldn't come up with the money which they were depending on to pay me. Then I taking all sort of actions will not cause me to get the money still, because that individual, from the source where they're supposed to get it, is unable to get it from that source and doesn't have another means. So the letter, which I want you to pull up, because we want people to understand this thing. I mean, there are those who are listening to this program may feel, well, you know, you are NNP, so you agree with the government. No. And as you've correctly said, Mr. Duncan, when the government negotiated with the public workers in good faith, whether it was with TAU, GUT, and the Public Workers Union, who negotiated on behalf of all public servants, teachers included, and they settled in 2019 on that 3-year deal agreement for 4% increase to public servants January of 2020, 4% January of 2021, and another 4% in January of 2022. They did it in good faith, understanding that at the given time which they signed to, that the public servants would get that 4% increase. And it happened in 2020. January of 2020, they didn't have to strike. They didn't have to go on what? No talk day and no text day and seek out day and red armband day and what have you. They did not have to. The government honored its commitment on a timely and in a timely manner. And end of January 2020, all public servants who was entitled to the 4% increase got the 4% increase. Later into 2020, the pandemic was on fold. We started hearing about it early in the year from Wuhan in China, of this flu-like disease that was affecting people. And before you knew it, it started spreading around the world. And we in Grenada had to feel the effect too. We had lockdown. Things changed. The government then updated the nation and explained that the economy was doing much worse than it was doing before, and they're collecting less revenue. At least there was a time when they were collecting 40%. Then, things balance off a little bit and 50%, and it continued to increase. So much so that there was a deficit in economic growth in 2020 by 12%. We were minus 12%. The government budgeted for 2021 and said, look, we are hoping that through construction and other initiatives that there will be a 6% growth. And I heard and I'm saying that because I heard the president of the teachers union on a program on GBN saying, well, look, there will be economic growth of 6%. And if he understands economics, because you had a minus 12, if you have a positive 6 this year, you still minus 6, because you have to wipe off 6 before you get there and then start having positive growth again. So the government very early, before the new year, before the deadline for payment came, went to the unions with a proposal. The unions said, look, we'll have to speak to our clientele. We'll go for a deferral as opposed to removing it completely. The government then agreed with the union for a deferral, but not under the conditions that some of them. Well, I think the teachers union said no deferral. The public workers union agreed for a deferral for 6 months, but with certain conditions. And knowing an exact date when they will pay. And government then said to them, listen, at this time, we're not in a position to say, well, in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year. What we are in a position to do is to share with you on a quarterly basis, which I'll meet, and we will present our books to you, show you where we are in terms of collection, how we are doing. And when we believe, with your concurrence, that the government revenue has reached to the stage and to a state where we can not just implement, but sustain. Because you see, you can have a spike in a month and say, well, this month is a good month, I can give you a 4%. And what if you have a serious or significant drop the next month? So you must be in a position, first and foremost, to implement, but secondly, to sustain. Because 4% is not a month thing, It is there for as long as the public service goes on. Save and except something drastic happens, which we hope never happens, and the government has to move to cut salaries. And I don't know that government even want to consider that as an option. So the government has said, can we move to a deferral? Yes, we signed. And as the person was saying to you, government signed, and they signed in good faith with the intention to pay, with the intent to give the 4% when the time becomes due. They did it in 2020 with absolutely no problem. But 2021 is a much more difficult year with greater challenges. Who could deny? The entire world is reeling under the pressure. Every country is complaining. I mean, look, the government in Antigua said to the public servants outright, don't look for anything extra. There will be no salary increases. There will be no because we just don't have the money and can't see a way to get the money. In St. Lucia, they said, look, COVID is getting worse. It's starting to reap havoc and, going on a charade here, but we can't even afford at this time to go on a full-scale lockdown because our economy is so bad that if we go on a full-scale lockdown, we think that we will go into shambles. St. Vincent is ravaging under it. And no other country. Let's look around us the world over. Governments just cannot come up with the funding to give increased salaries. The government is attempting and trying and has done it throughout last year and hoping that they can do it throughout this year to pay the public servants and pay them on time, monthly, whether there is work or not, whether there is lockdown or not. And believe you me, we'll hear all sorts of things. People have all kind of stories that they want to tell. The bottom line is, the government has said and has asked the union, please let us consider foregoing, pushing back, postponing to a later date the implementation. We understand as government, that's the government word. That's what they've said. That's what the negotiators for government said. That to postpone is putting the government in a worse position. Because when the time comes and we are able to pay, we not only will have to pay you 4%, but we have to pay it with interest. We have to give a back pay for the months that you did not get it. And then we still have to implement in 2022 another 4%. That's the government word. So who is going to negotiate for them to be in a worse off position? It is prudent and better for government if they can pay now. But there are times when your back is against the wall and there's nowhere else to turn. And that is the situation with government at this time.
Mr. Paul, I mean, I'm you don't even understand how I feel right now, eh? And
I don't want to understand, Ms. Duncan. I know you're a parent, and I know you have concern about your children, but the fact is, and the reality is, this is what is happening. But also, we must know and accept that workers have a right under the labor law to take industrial action.
And I understand that, Mr. Bula.
And if you understand that, hold on just one moment before you come in, because you're getting very emotional. And once they have that right, they can enforce it, right? However, like you and like others, I say, let us look at the bigger picture.
Right. And Mr. Bula, I understand that fully and entirely and totally. I understand. My issue is not with the industrial action in it. They could industrial action all they want to, today, tomorrow, next week. My issue is allowing parents the opportunity to make an informed decision beforehand. Because had I known this, had this been publicized, had parents, and I'm sure I'm not the only parent in this or a similar situation, had known this, I would have made other arrangements for my child. Now imagine my child undergoing chemotherapy, already very immunocompromised, and is sitting in a school full of children unmonitored, Mr. Bola. Now imagine.
Well, go get your child, Ms. Duncan. That's all I could advise you. Because, again, if the teachers were to inform parents that they won't be in school today, it would defeat the purpose of what they're trying to achieve. And I want to be very frank. It's not that I agree with the moves. No, I don't agree with the way they're doing things, because in my mind, and if I was part of the leadership of the union, and I probably might have been the only one, but I would have said to our workers, listen, while we are angry, while we are disappointed, while we all want our money, we have to deal with the reality.
And the reality is,
that the government is unable, because you pull up the letter and you just let it go, because the union is saying that, and that is the teachers' union. That is the teachers' union.
And I can read it for you. It says here that the Grenada Union of Teachers is quite disappointed in the recent pronouncement by government of Grenada as it relates to the 4% increase due to teachers. And we understand that.
Good.
We agree. They have a right to be disappointed. We are quite aware of the challenges faced by government regarding the generating of revenue in a recent statement by government.
And in a recent
statement by government of Grenada, they outlined the reasons why the revenue collection has been down. So they are disappointed, we understand. They understand and they are aware of the challenges that government has faced in the collection of revenue, which is the main source of their salary or their compensation.
Well, if government doesn't have revenue and doesn't have resources, then they can't pay.
And it goes further to say, be that as it may, which in short terms mean we don't care. It says, be that as it may, It is the same government that was able to find $2 million to buy back a company that, in the most part, has been serving Grenadians well over the past 20 years.
So, the first two paragraphs are very important for us to understand in this conversation. Because here you have the union, which is negotiating on behalf of teachers, saying, we are disappointed. And we all agree. I would be disappointed if I was down to get money, or if anybody had something for me and promised and signed on the dotted line, which we have a legal agreement, I would expect them to. But as we explain, even with the best of intentions, sometimes people just cannot find what you do. Mm-hmm. And then you have cases where people are sent to jail sometimes when they can't pay. They make time in jail, but you still didn't get the money. Mm-hmm. Because the fact is, if they don't have it, they don't have it. If they can't find it, if there's no means of getting it, there's just no means. And the government says we don't have it. But there you have the leaders of the union who wrote this public and made this letter public saying, we understand. We know that government is challenged. We understand that government cannot raise the revenue now. Mm-hmm. They're saying it. Now, my God, if you understand all of that, why then you say, be that as it may, I just don't care. I want it.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. So if you understand, Mr. Bowler, you understand that it's revenue collection that pays your salary. You understand that that source is down because they said it in the letter, and I'll read it again. They said it very clearly in the letter. They said, we are quite aware of the challenges faced by government regarding the generating of revenue, and a recent statement. In a recent statement, the government of Grenada outlined the reason why its revenue collection is done. So they understand why the source of their salary is being affected. They understand why the source
for the increase, because the salary is not affected because they continue to get paid.
So they understand the source of the increase has been affected. They have all of the reasons why, and they understand. Look, and they are quite aware. They are quite aware of
We are quite aware of the challenges faced by government.
My question is, Mr. Bowler, then, if that is the case, you are aware of the challenges, you understand, you have a list of the reasons, you know that revenue collection is what is the driving force behind the agreement. Because, of course, if government did not see a way forward when they signed that agreement for you to get that 4% increase at the end of for the 3-year period, if they didn't see that, then of course they would not agree on it. So they saw that that way forward. We had a pandemic. Now they are saying to us, okay, we have some debilitating circumstances that will prevent us from meeting that particular requirement for now. They didn't say permanently. They didn't say we rescind on our agreement. They didn't say, well, all ain't working, so all ain't get it. They said nothing of that nature. They said, for now, we cannot see ourselves putting the country in this kind of expense when our economic status is so uncertain. So they understand that fully well. But yet still, we are at a place where there is industrial action. And mind you, with this industrial action that is taking place, not one government official is affected. Not one representative is affected. It did not take Dr. Mitchell out of office. The NNP administration did not just lose the election as a result of that, because the election is not tomorrow. The only people, Mr. Bowler, here that is really being affected are the children that are now sitting in a classroom with no teacher, are the children that went to school.
Well, I want to say in some schools.
In some schools. Yeah. Are the children who went to school on Tuesday with the hope of interacting with their teacher, with the hope of learning something new, and were greeted by sign languages. Were the children who woke up at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning to interact with their teachers via Zoom, and some of them were met with messages saying that there will be no Zoom classes for the day, but bombarded with a whole set of work that we do not even know if they understand, because there was nobody there to explain. There was nobody there to provide instruction. There was nobody there to give guidance. There was nobody there to scaffold, Mr. Bowler. These are the people who are affected.
And I agree with you 100% on your analysis. But as someone asked on the live, what is the motive? The motive is, and you try to raise some of them, the motive is that down the line, ministers will be affected because, of course, they can and will in some ways. Because when this struggle continues and children are not getting their schooling, or the teachers are not teaching, or they're not sending work, parents and the citizenry will definitely appeal to the parliamentary rep, hoping that there could be some kind of solution in sight. Secondly, you said, oh, well, the NNP is still in government. Yes, for now, but the motive and hope is that issues like that is going to affect
the outcome of the
next election, that the citizenry, the constituents of the various constituencies will be downright mad and angry with government or with the NNP administrators, and probably don't vote them again in another election. So there is definitely a motive, because a lot of the language of what you're hearing, a lot of the utterances are those of what you're hearing from opposition members or members of the party that is most opposed to the government. So one has to understand that opposition parties and unions, trade unions, oftentimes will work in unison with one another, because they always, most times, see the government as the big stone in the room, for want of a better phrase, and so they do everything. But sometimes I believe that as citizens, as intelligent people, while you may want to fight back, as one of those songs, which was very popular during the revolution, used to go, stand up and fight back. They say you got nothing to lose, but I'm not sure. If you got nothing to lose, one senior guy very, very many years ago said to me, boy, you may win the battle, but eventually you lose the war. It took me a while to understand what he's saying, or was saying, because I think he has transited onto the beyond. Because there are many times we get into battles, and at the end we think we are victorious because we slay the enemy. But when we look around us, we have lost so much in that battle, that we really didn't win. Yeah. We stood up victorious. Our flag stood up flying. But the amount of casualties, the amount of expenses, the amount of weaponry and infrastructure that has been damaged in the process, we really didn't win. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, in this present debacle, who is going to win eventually?
And
who is going to win? What will be the casualty by the time you get your 4%? Yeah. And the thing is, you do not have to engage into those kind of actions to get your 4%. It's yours. It has been promised. And the government said, we will, in a timely manner, down the road when the economy gets better. And whether you strike, you teach, you seek off, you are no talk day, and you go on for months, that is what the situation is and will be until things get better. Mm-hmm. So my thing is not the disappointment, not the fact that you want to keep a reminder in the minds of people and to the government by saying or doing certain things, but I don't know, and I honestly don't believe that it had to be taken to that level at this time. Because that's my personal opinion. And I feel it for the children, especially.
Of course, because at the end of the day, we have situations, and I'm going to be frank and I'm going to be honest. As a parent, we have situations where we have children who are just... My daughter called me on Friday, Mr. Bola. She was upset, she was emotional, she was crying, because she was given an assignment. And she said to me, Mommy, I haven't gotten a break for the day, because when we finish a Zoom class, Miss given us an assignment and we have a deadline, but then we have a next Zoom class after. So she felt very overwhelmed and overworked and overloaded. So she called me and I said to her, listen, crying and being upset is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to make you feel any better. It's not going to finish the assignments. What you need is a break. Take a break, and then when I get home, we will continue. And I will explain to your teacher why this was late or why that was late. And that is fine. That was on Friday of last week when she called me. And It was overwhelming for her because in most instances, she didn't have a Zoom class. It was just work that was assigned to her during Edmundo. She had to read, understand the instructions, and present it by a different by a certain times. There are children who are not having engagements with their teachers. That is a fact, Mr. Bowler. There are children who are getting work. You don't know if they understand. You don't know if they don't understand. It is a difficult situation to be in for these children. They are exposed to now a new environment where they have to learn virtually, where they can't interact with their friends, where they can't interact with their teachers as they would like to, where the curriculum cannot be accomplished in the time that we want it accomplished in, because learning online requires more patience. It requires longevity, you know? And these children are not being engaged. Now imagine the one day that they have an opportunity to go to school and ask questions and engage with their teachers. Something like this turns up. Now later down the line, when we have a lot of dysfunctional youth, we are wondering what happened and where did we go wrong. Then we start pointing fingers at government saying there's no employment. We start pointing fingers at parents saying there's no guidance. And we fail to realize that it is always a multiplicity of circumstances that lead to these kind of things. And we have to, as much as possible, try our best to not contribute to that. So as you rightfully said, Mr. Bowler, at some point in time, whether you are represented by a union or not, whether you support a political institution or not, you have to make a decision for yourself. Is what I'm doing right, and is what I'm doing fair to the individuals that I'm doing it to? So as a teacher, and this is not to bash any particular teacher or even the whole of them, but it's simply to say that as a teacher, you know your students. You know the situation and the circumstances. You understand the challenges that government is currently experiencing. Because I don't think there's anybody that doesn't understand the challenges that we are now facing. And yet for all, you are being requested to do something that will directly affect the students that you teach. And you do it anyway.
Well, you know, Let me rephrase what I wanted to say. Because I don't want to sound crude, you know? Because oftentimes when you speak, and like I said recently to someone, it is now information flows as the wind now. Probably faster than the wind. Whatever you say, whatever you put out there, it gets around the world before you have a chance to rekindle, to correct, because you may make a mistake. Everybody knows it before you are able to correct it. So I want to be careful, and I want I don't want anyone to think that I'm anti-workers. You know, I am not at all. I am one who have been a parliamentary representative, and if you go into the constituency that I used to represent at one time, people would always tell you, one of the things that I say to them when they come seeking a job sometime, and we couldn't find a place or a means of helping them, and they would say, oh God, Mr. Bowler, well, anything. And I said, look, it's not about giving you something. It's about having the ability and knowing where the resources come from to pay you. And sometimes in their own desperation, people would say, well, I understand. So if I had to wait for the money, I would wait. And there's one thing that I've learned during my period actively in government as a politician, is that your constituents, or most people, will get a little bit angry with you when they're seeking a job and you can't help them, or they get the impression that you're not willing to help them. But you know what? They would hate you when you put them in a job. You get them to work, and then you can't pay them the money at the end of the day. Because then they start feeling you took advantage of them. You utilize their labor, you utilize their energy, and now they are not compensated for it. So I made this point to say that whenever people work, I am one of the firm believers that they should be compensated, they should be paid, they should receive their remuneration. And I ain't going to put my mouth in no bucket or bag or so to speak. I'll speak plainly and outright. That whether you're a government employee or you're employed in the private sector, wherever you work, you're deserving, you perform, you should be paid. And so I know and I accept the fact that people are disappointed of not receiving at the end of January the 4%. But we're living in a different times. And the government did explain. And the union, the teachers, the Grenada Union of Teachers themselves, through their letter say, they know, they understand, they agree that it is a challenge for the government. So if you know, if you agree, if the government has explained and they told you, look, we can't do it now. Give us a little break. Let's continue the negotiations. Let's continue to look at the books. Let's even come up with suggestions as to ways and things we can do. And rather than you do those things and work with your employer and see how things could be better, you move straight into this kind of industrial actions that are hurting and affecting the very children that you say you love and you want.
But not only the children, Mr. Bola, because I want to read a part of the letter, and it reads here that, let's see. Oh, I want to find it so I can read it, where they speak about caring for the vulnerable of the country, the needy and the vulnerable, and I just want to find it, and when I find it, I'll read it. And it speaks about the unemployed mother, the unemployed and the unfortunate single mother and the poor and the vulnerable. They spoke about caring about these people in the letter. But Mr. Bola, guess what? The same people that you speak about caring about are the people who are being hurt the most. Because that parent from St. Andrew that sent their child down to St. George this morning with maybe the last $10 they had for the week, because that child has one day of school, and they have to go and see where they could find another $10 because their job was affected by the pandemic, because they worked in the tourism industry and they worked in a hotel and they were either laid off or they were placed on the sideline because they were not getting as much tourists and all of that. These are the same people who, in your letter, you have tried to appeal to their emotions to support you. These are the people that you are directly affecting. That mother, that single mother who said, you know what, my child only getting one day of school. I had to make the sacrifice and I had to send the child only to go to school and bounce up this nonsense, because that's what it is to me. That's what it is. And nobody is saying that they don't have a right to do it, Mr. Bola. Of course. But your direct salaries have not been affected. They have been paid their full salary from the time this happened in March to current. Their full salaries have been paid, untouched. Government has not retrenched one worker. Government has not said to people that, okay, we are going to have to cut back on paying this, or we are going to have to cut your salary a little bit because we cannot find the resources, or the revenue is not coming in as it used to, so we have to make cuts in certain areas. Nothing like that has been said. At the end of the month, my tax-paying dollars, Mr. Bola, my VAT, and my duties from clearing whatever I clear on the port and so on go towards paying the salaries of public workers, and that is the truth. That is a fact. Now, even that is being done on a lower scale. So me, as a consumer, understands that I am not putting out as much as I used to. So then government is not receiving as much as government used to. But the salaries of public workers still remain paid in full. While the people who are affected, those on the airport, those in the hotels and so on, continue to contribute towards the revenue that pays salaries, even though they don't have an active income, even though they don't know that they will receive a salary at the end of every month. They still continue to actively pay their taxes, purchase purchase, so consumer taxes are being paid, and that is where our revenue is pulled from, so that these people can get their salaries at the end of the month. And because government is saying that at this time we cannot afford to pay a 4% that we agreed upon, we know we agreed upon it, we will give it to you, but we cannot do it right now, so my child must suffer for it.
Child of the taxpayer who is helping to pay them. And maybe they're right in some ways, because government has been back over, made sacrifices and find ways, even during a pandemic time when nobody moved a pin, when there was no work done, and they paid. And I'm happy that the government was able to pay, because it definitely reduced the suffering that would have taken place in the country. Because at the time, if government wasn't able to pay its public servants, plus the amount of private sector people that was laid off, it would have been total chaos in the land. And I'm happy, and I hope that government will be in a position to continue to pay public servants, even if it means that we have to go on another lockdown, which I hope we never. But government, I hope, would always be in a position to meet that demand, because the hardship that is out there, you cannot allow it to get any harder. We cannot strive to see things get worse than it is now. All we need to do is get it better. In fact, there was someone who sent a post there saying that the bottom line is the world is in a crisis and the decisions by the union is a bad one. They are only going to mash up the country more. This is a time to come together and build, not to break down.
Absolutely.
I think it in their own way, that person have summed up this situation well enough. It is not a situation isolated to Grenada.
No.
It is not a situation that was created by the present administration. It is not a situation that was created by the opposition. No Grenadian wanted COVID to come here to mash up the country. But even if Grenada was safe and we didn't even have one case, economically we could not get away.
Yeah.
It's like global warming, climate change. We emit such a limited amount of greenhouse gases, but we feel the blunt of the issue as bad as any of the industrialized nations that emit far more greenhouse gases responsible for global warming like us. So what we are not responsible for, we have to help to change. And so I believe with the present impasse and situation, all Grenadians must come on board and try as much as possible to talk sense into those who are hell-bent on creating an untenable situation for the country. And I ain't telling you that you have to join NNP. You don't have to become a card-bearing member of the New National Party. You don't have to go there and expose that you expose that you love Dr. Mitchell. You don't have to. You don't have to vote on election day for the NNP. But because of your love and concern for your country, you must stand up and say, listen, we understand your situation and your disappointment, but for the benefit of Grenada, let us just hold out for a while and give the government a chance.
But Mr. Bola, you see, and it's about time that Grenadians, we talk about waking up, but it's time that we all wake up and see that every institution does not have to work as a political organization. And that is what is happening in the cases of these unions. They are not working as a union for the betterment of the people and the betterment of the country. They are working as a political organization. So they feel that if the public sector or the public servants get up and they rise up and there's rioting and industrial action, it will affect the outcome of the next election. That is what they are hoping, You think they really care about the 4%? You think they don't understand that government is not in a position?
You can't say they don't care. Why are they taking the actions?
So that they can, I'll tell you why. They are taking the actions not because they feel like it will benefit the public servants, because they know that government is not in a place that they can pay. They are taking the actions and allowing public servants to take the actions, and it's as plain as day, so that they will get political mileage out of it, so that they can achieve their political objective, which is by hopes that the public sector would rise up and it would influence people to vote against the New National Party, and that someone else will win the next election, preferably a party that they represent. And that is as plain as that. That is.
But they can do that without because when they do all of that and they mash up the country that bad, and they get political power, they would have to fix all of that,
But they're not thinking like that. A man hungry for power is blinded by the effects that or the problems that he causes along the way.
It's like our parents died and left a house, and we are struggling over who should own it. Yeah, and we take sledge and hammer and start mashing it down, and then I eventually get it.
And that's when you realize the mess.
And then I had to go and build it back up.
But that is the only time that you realize the mess you created. While you're there mashing down and tearing down, what you thinking is that, watch, I'm mashing it up so if somebody else get it, it won't be in no good condition for them to live in, you know. So that's what they're hoping. We go mash it up and tear it down so that if the NNP comes back in office, it will be ungovernable. But they're not looking at the fact that government is a continuum. So whatever they mash up and tear down, if whatever government comes in office, they have to fix the mess that they created. And it's as simple as that. Because I cannot understand how big consenting adults with clear understanding of the situation, with clear understanding that recurrent expenditure, which we get from revenue collection, which pays their salaries, have been done. They clearly understand that, but yet would take industrial actions to receive a 4% increase that government is clearly saying they are unable to do at this time. I am baffled.
You know, I was speaking to a couple of teachers. I oftentimes try to have conversation because I want to get a full understanding, you know, comprehend properly. And there are those who are angry. One teacher said to me, well, I'm not doing it for the money. I said, why are you doing it? And she just laughed. You know, and I presume that probably, I just presume because she never told me why she's doing it. That may be one that is going with the flow because every other one in her school is doing it. And there was a young man who said to me, he said, you know, I am not going to participate, you know, because when I did a calculation, why should I do all of that? And what I'm going to actually receive as an increase at the end of the month is $54. My 4% is equates that. So should I mash up a whole system for $54? You know? Exactly. And so you have some people who think wisely and they allow the intellect to take command and not just the emotions, because money can make us get very emotional. And whether it is $20, $4, $10, $1,000, whatever your increase will amount to, it is your money. And I'm not trying to trivialize the fact that it is your money, it was negotiated for and it was agreed for. It doesn't matter the amount, because different people, based on what their salary is presently, what salary range they are in, the amount they receive will vary. And the principle is that if it's due to me, it should be given to me. Accepted, agreed. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that we are in one of the most challenging economic period of all times. We're not just Grenada, but the entire world is under problem. And Grenada is not isolated. We don't live on our own. We have to interact. We have to intertrade. We are interdependent. We must, you know, do business with other places in order for trade, to facilitate trade, so that we can collect revenue. And even if Grenada, like I've said, and we are clear now based on what the Minister for Health pronounced yesterday, with no active cases. Even though we are clear that way, we still need the other countries who are under lockdown for our economy to continue to move. We have to trade with them. We have to ship. We have to buy. We have to sell. So, I mean, come on, people. Let's think.
Further from that, and as you said rightfully, that all of the countries in the Caribbean have been experiencing similar challenges with revenue collection. Let's just jump across to Antigua and Barbuda, where in December, when they sat in Parliament, their Prime Minister said, and I want to quote it, he said, the fiscal state of our government is severely challenged as a consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the economy and activity since March of 2020. The Cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, the statutory corporations, and the state's several authorities are not now in a position to pay bonuses or to make advances to staff. He even went further, Mr. Bowler, to speak about salary increases and how they must not look for one because the country cannot afford to do it. But if that is not enough, let's jump to, I believe it was St. Lucia, who recently, the union, one of the head union leaders in that country, went further to state that they approached government last year.
Yeah, that's the General Secretary.
And deferred on the 1% increase that they were expected to get, understanding the situation.
They didn't wait for government to ask them.
They didn't wait for government to ask them. They went to government and they asked government to defer. And then went further to say that the position that the government of Grenada took in going to their representative, because government could have simply just said, well, we don't have it, you know. They went to them. They explained the situation. They sat with them, I guess, hoping that they were speaking to
civil-minded
individuals with that hope in mind, that they would understand, that they would appeal to their better judgment, that they, being the leadership of the civil servants, that they would go back now to the civil servants and explain to them the circumstances and appeal to their better judgment as their leaders. And that is completely contrary to what they did. Completely contrary. And it pains me, Mr. Bowler, to sit here and even think or even consider the fact that we are not reasonable enough, that we are not rational enough, that we feel that anytime we want something, that we must behave as children and fight for it and throw a tantrum for it, that we cannot sit and have a civil conversation, understanding both sides and meet in the middle, that we cannot continue as normal until we can arrive at a place where we are both satisfied. It pains me that we are in and we feel that this is a good practice. We feel that this is a common practice. So we're going to open the lines at this time because I really feel like we talk enough, you know, and I don't want to get, because it is an emotional situation for me, not only as an educator, Mr. Bowler, not only as a person who wants to see the education system in Grenada transform and thrive, but also as a parent parents, Mr. Bowler, who are making sacrifices as well to ensure that our children are proper, because these are our children's futures we are speaking about, you know. These are the future prime ministers, the future union leaders, the future teachers. These are the people that we are affecting by doing this, you know.
Well, Ms. Duncan, I do not agree that we say enough. There's a lot more we can say, but I agree with you that it is time to give our listeners an opportunity to express themselves.
All right. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Sister Duncan. Good morning, darling.
Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
I'm fine. And good morning to your handsome, beautiful, sexy brother by your side there.
A bon Jedi description for me, yes? Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you today?
I'm fine and well, fine and nice.
Good.
Well, I want to tell you all something. You see, when you're young, you do a lot of foolishness, but you just come back. Don't mind, you see, I am a new national party, right?
Yes.
And here had nobody bigger than me in the new national party. I could tell you that.
We
and
believe you.
I think in my mind now. You see, in Blaze time and Gary days, you see those teachers before, you getting a naughty when telling you naughty. But you see now, they used to come to agreement. But what they do, they say they want the money and they want it now. And that and those things are those days things is cheap. You getting a whole pound of saltfish for 50 cents. Things is cheap. But what, how much you getting a pound of saltfish now? Almost $20 you getting for a pound of saltfish now. No one before is different and different. Those children that was in government. I'm afraid to say it. But I will call the person's name.
Okay.
Was in the forefront. They wanted to know, and they make a big demonstration. And what it is, yes, Uncle Blaze get the pick up, and he give them the money. Yes, not to say he didn't give them, he give them. And you know what happened to Uncle Blaze? Uncle Blaze dead. He dead. So they tell you what goes wrong, and it does come wrong. And when you hear it come wrong, it does be nasty. And still, those that really know, those children in school, they have that in their brains, you can't take it out in their brains, They have it for you. They say, you remember when and when you call for the money, and when you couldn't get it, and what all you do? You can go get them back. You see what comes around goes around. So it shall be in the beginning and
So
the
shall
ending
it
of the was.
In the
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm telling you. We go talk behind the scenes.
All right, my
right,
dear. We
Jacob.
thank you for your contribution, and we understand that
Popo.
things will have to change, something we'll have to give.
Tell
Yeah.
Mommy nice, but girl, that woman so sweet. I talked to her this morning, She nice too much.
Yes.
She tell me continue, help her. I say, yeah, mommy, well, is myself that helping you pray, Myself that helping you pray. It's sweet. And so, mommy, you have a blessed day. God bless you, and you know
You
who talking.
too.
That's
All
that.
right. Take
right.
good care, Theresa. We will talk
Okay,
again.
darling.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right.
All right, I want to read some of the comments on the live video. And guys, wanting to call, the number to call is 440-7377 if you're calling locally. If you're in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it's 347-329-3101. And I want to read one of the comments before I take this call. And it says, when COVID hit, my tenant did not pay rent for 2 months from March, plus half of the rest of the year. This was my sacrifice or contribution. We can all contribute in a way, in one way or the other. Think of the next person. And let's quickly take this call, and I'll continue reading from the live video.
Good morning, Mr. Bulla.
Hi. Good morning.
How are everything?
We are okay, thank you.
Mr. Bulla and Ms. Duncan, there were union leaders in 2008 to 2013.
I'm still wondering. I'm not sure,
It had one in and they'd arrest him. You don't remember that one?
Free, so,
Okay, all right.
right? Well, what I'm saying, okay. How is only when NMP they up in office, the union leaders show the colors, right? They show the colors. They are then that only time they seeking for the workers.
Well, that's the only time they just get money.
They seeking for workers.
That's the only time they just get money.
The only time, because they know definitely and then the city administration they have nothing to get.
Let me just tell you something, just quickly.
Yeah.
Fishermen go to fish every day,
Yeah.
but they know the grounds where they catch fish and those grounds where they don't,
Yeah.
All right, so what would they do? Go to where they just catch?
Exactly, because they're going.
Right.
You know, remember I made a statement that a lot of people vote NMP because they know under NMP administration they go get something.
Yes.
Alright? Yeah, because when I look at this situation at the time, when in our life, I don't believe that anybody living on the face also made promise to people. We made promise. Right? We genuinely want to fulfill the promise.
Mm-hmm.
But due to none of the two persons that signed the agreement, it's not the fault. And something happened that where one person have to do something with the money they have to pay. But a sickness comes in the family. The person will go to the person and say, Mr. John or Mr. James, I came to you in a humble heart. I came to you and speaking the truth. Because you know, like a death neighbor, you know the situation, the person knows the situation. Yes, you say to the person, yes, I understand. Okay? But then you sit around and tell Mr. John, you want your money. Well, how could you understand Mr. John's situation when you still want Mr. John to pay you? And what Mr. John is saying to you, I will pay you. But they're asking for extension time. But in 2008, 2013, there is nothing you get in. Because you could put a pot on fire and say, well, 2000, I will not fish. It will have fish in the sea. But you're not sure. But this one Israel promises something. And they say, well, come down and say, well, because the situation, which is the situation, you know what is the problem. And you understand. But they still don't budge in. Right? Sometimes I don't see, sometimes people come in as union leaders, but the really put aim is politics.
Okay.
It's politics. Sometimes you don't have to tell people, you don't have to read respect for people. People could read through the line.
Mm-hmm. You
could read through the line. And I would say, if you want to get into politics, come through the right procedure. Don't go and join a union leader. Be a union leader.
They don't have to go through all that. Yeah.
No, but a lot of the better politicians that we have had over the years started in the union.
They started.
Yeah.
Exactly true. Right? But then, so as a union leader, but you have to have a heart of love for one another. You have to have some love in you. Because you have to look at and tell yourself, some of the union people, some of the workers you're seeking for, they have family. Mm-hmm. And the government reach out and pay the pension. They have children that go to school. The government has to reach out and help them too. Yeah. Right? And say, one cake, you can't expect you to get a whole chunk of the cake. Some people don't get. Right? And if some people get, they have to, for sake of those who get and give you. And you tell me you care about people and you love people. I want to say, let us come to come and understand. Union leaders, sit them on the bargaining table. You tell the people the truth. Tell people the truth. Which I know definitely the greater people know what is going on right now with the coronavirus. I not I'm making a government, not making a government. So all what the government asks is for a little time. Because you could tell, and so one of the things the government cannot do. So we're like, okay, in August month I'll give you the money. None of us going to know what's going to happen in August. Because if you're going to give a time, and when August returns, and you don't put something happen again, why we got to go back and give bargain? So when they ask for government, give him a time. The government can't do that. Because we don't know what's going to happen in August, what's going to happen in September month. So the government cannot give a time somewhere they will pay the money. So I do as big people, let us come to a common understanding and for the betterment of the country, and let us put people first. Because what God says, for the love of money, right? You say love make the world go wrong, not money. Mm-hmm. Not money. Most important, we need money. Yeah. Right? But they say, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world for your last of the soul? Let us put children first. Let us put children. I would say, if you put children first and put people first, it will be a success. It will be successful in things like that. When you put money in front of people, you will not be successful. Right? Because see money, they put money more important than people. All right? So, Ms. Duncan, I want to say to the union leaders and the workers of Greater Carriacou and Beatmatic, look to the union leaders. Look and see what game they're playing. They're using you, all right, to do the dirty work for them. Mm-hmm. All right, so Ms. Duncan, Mr. Bola, you have a wonderful day. God bless you.
Okay. Thank you too, and thank you for your contribution.
Mr. Bola, I just want to read as the caller just alluded to that the Bible speaks about love and having love for others. You know what the Bible also said? That there will be terrible times in the last days. Because, we always saying it's the last days. I don't believe we're in the last days yet. I think we have a long way to go still. But it's leading to there. But he also said
where are you reading that from?
2 Timothy.
Okay, well, tell the people.
2 Timothy.
Next thing somebody doesn't make all your own Bible.
At all. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verses 1 to 5. And people are very familiar with that.
Yes.
And it goes to say that there will be terrible times in the last days. People will become lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful and unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And that speaks about, because it speaks about so many things that are happening right now as we speak. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Good morning. How are you?
I am quite fine. You know me already. Always good.
And how is my son?
You ain't him in the background there jumping up and making noise?
Oh, Lord, no, I ain't hear him. I ain't hear him.
Well, I have a question to ask.
Good morning, Honorable Senator.
Good morning to you, sir. I want to know why your child is not in school.
He's not
Well,
that
he's
age.
just 2 years old, you know.
Oh, he's not of age for school as yet?
He's not.
No, sir. He's in daddy daycare still.
I thought it was because you're afraid they won't teach your child.
No, I think we have one of the better educational systems in the Caribbean region.
Yes.
And we have excellent teachers in the state of Grenada.
Of course.
I agree with that too.
When you check the level of education of the average Grenadian child to those of some quote unquote large countries, our children here have been doing exceptionally well. When you look at the results from CXC and O-level results and all these things, when you look at those results, we have been scoring in the top percentile.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have intelligent children, but we also have far above normal excellent teachers. And we can't say we don't have good teachers in Grenada because all three of us are the students of Grenadian teachers.
Absolutely.
And we're pretty sure nearly everybody listening this as well.
Yes. The only other place I've been taught outside of Grenada, I've been to Jamaica for a while doing some studies. And in my very early days as a custom officer, I was given the opportunity, I think about 3 or 4 months, to go to a college in Canada. It's called in a place called Rigaud. It's a French part of Canada. A custom college, Rigaud. They speak mainly French, but it was a sort of Caribbean coast. So other than that, all my learning took place right here from people right in this country. So you're so correct with the point you're making.
Yes, indeed. And in my case, as everybody knows, I did spend the early part of my life in Trinidad. So I've been through the educational system there, which I cannot fault. I have to say it is good as well. But you cannot turn your back on Grenadian teachers. You know, they're good like that. Yeah, as in everything, you have the good and the bad.
Yep.
And everywhere you have the good and the bad. But they're excellent. But I kind of call in semi-blind this morning.
Yeah.
Because I tune in, I heard Ms. Duncan reading Bible scriptures. I don't know what I really just forgot today. But,
well, just to bring you up to speed a little bit, we started mildly to discuss what a couple of weeks ago I referred to as soft protest. I did mention when we spoke about the little debacle between the 4% and the reasons government gave, and we hope that, they will come to some kind of amicable solution. And someone suggested that, well, maybe they may strike, and I said, well, probably not full-blown, but do some soft protests. We saw what was happening last week. And for this week, the unions, again, in particular the duty, I have not heard anything about public workers, whether they are participating in what is happening. But definitely among the teachers, they have a whole week of activity this week. Tuesday, which is a short week, was what they call No Talk Day. So teachers went into the school, went into the classrooms, but were not teaching, weren't saying anything to the children, just making sign language. And let me qualify that by saying some, because we have gotten reports of some schools where there was regular schooling, teachers taught, engage the children and what have you. Yesterday was scheduled to be No Text Day. As you know, because of this blended approach, some children are in school some days and other days they're home. And when they're home, they receive the virtual learning. They have virtual classes, interact with the teachers, get work and so. So yesterday, teachers could not text, so it was No Text Day. Today is supposed to be
I'm not too sure that worked because my son received about 6 sets of work from his teachers yesterday.
Right, so that's what we're saying.
I'm on to the Edmodo. So
right.
Every time he receives a message, I receive it as well to make sure that he does.
Right.
He has, and he got about 6 different ones yesterday.
So that's why I qualified very early to say some.
Yeah.
Because there are some teachers who, and I've mentioned that this morning, who are continuing, understanding that the children are the ones that would suffer. And there are those others who is adhering to the union's request. So today is supposed to be what is called Sick Out Day or something like that, where the intent is that teachers are going to call in sick, but what they told them, look, whenever you feel better, so if at 11:45 you find you're feeling better, you can go in school. If at 1 o'clock, you can go in. If at 10, you can go in. So school most likely, schools most likely would have started this morning with little or no teachers in it. And maybe they may trickle in through the day. And then tomorrow the plan is to have a silent march from the National Stadium to wherever, I don't know. And the time that the march should start, I don't know also. But this is what I've picked up, because what they did not do this time was not send a circular around, a printed copy of what the actions are. It was kind of word of mouth. You know, in the days when we didn't have telephone and what have you, and you tell one a story and the story pass on. In that kind of way, they said they didn't want to print anything, expose themselves, so let's do our things quietly. So that is what sparked off the discussion, and we continued along the line, and people were calling in and, you know, sending
the thing is, I've been listening to the entire thing with the teachers, and yes, I don't think, and this is the thing that I've picked up from people in the public generally, I do not think that there's any Grenadian that would say that teachers or public servants are undeserving of a raise or undeserving of their increments and so on. But I also think that the average Grenadian out there also believes that, look, we can understand government's position. If you can't do something right now, and you've said early up that, look, we can't do it right now, we will do it. We're not saying that we won't do it. We will do it. We will do it at a later date. They're just calling for some understanding. And I think the problem there is not the teachers, you know, and I don't think we must. I heard people making certain statements against teachers, and I'm very against that, and I'm very upset about some of the statements I've been hearing made against teachers. I do not agree with them that teachers are asking for too much or so on. We can understand the things from the perspective of the teachers.
Right.
Government understands it. Government hasn't said that teachers do not deserve or will not get and that sort of thing. But it's just to understand the situation we are in. But Abola,
yes,
Sister Duncan, we're in a situation that we have literally hundreds of people that have returned to Grenada from the cruise ships. Yeah. Hundreds. Most of them are not working. They're not sure when they might get to go back on a cruise ship to work. Some have tried to start businesses here, so they're starting something where they're not even sure if they'll be making any money. They're by no way any of them that came back could have started a business that they're making a significant profit by now. Yeah. So it's a situation where you have this group of people. Then you're going to speak about the thousands of people in the hotel sector who are still at home. And you have some one or two that are out, but they're not even at full salary in some cases.
Yep.
So you have to consider all of these people, and all of these people, the burden of all of these people will eventually, in some form or format, fall on the government.
That's what they're looking to.
So it's not just a situation of we just have to pay and we have to pay and we have to pay, but it's a situation of there are many other things that government has to be looking at the same time. I understand the union leadership, and I always understand union leadership. Union leadership has to look after what they believe is the interests of their people, whether it's teachers, public workers, waterfront workers, police, nurses, whoever. The unions always have to look after what they believe is in the best interest of their constituents. But the government has to look after what the best interests of the unions, constituents, and everybody else in Grenada. Yep. Government cannot simply say that our only interests are public workers. Government cannot say that our interests are only police. Government has to look at everybody, the police and the police family, the nurses and the nurses family, the teachers and the teachers family. Government has to look overall at everything. And I think a little bit more discussion or thought by the leadership, and again, I'm not saying by the average teacher, by the leadership of these unions needs to go into some of the actions that they're taking, because in my view, and I'll make no apology for it, I see many of the actions that they're taking, the leadership of these unions, as political in nature and nothing to do with the welfare of the teachers.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the welfare of the teachers. It's just something to try and force a situation onto the government. Because if you're thinking of the country and you're thinking of the welfare of your constituents as a union leader, there is no way they'd be encouraging some of the things that they're encouraging right now. Because teachers have children in school too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The union leadership have children in school too.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you attempt to do something over something that you're sure you're going to get? Because if it was a certain other government, they ain't asking for that, because they know they wasn't getting it in the first place.
Someone asked a question before. 2008, 2013, were there union leaders in Grenada?
Yeah. Because you have to ask yourself where that leadership was during that period. So where were they during that period? So I would just say that I think it's very unfortunate that they've decided to take. I really wasn't following that closely to know all of the actions that they're taking.
Yeah.
But I do know that, at least in the case of my son and the school that he goes, I wouldn't call it school.
Mm-hmm.
But in his case, I know that he did get his work, and so as normal. And I'll continue to praise the hard work of the teachers. Many of them, if there's a problem, they would contact me directly to say, look, we have this issue with your son, we need to work on this. Or we realize this is a strong point, let's try to amplify that. But he has a weak point here, let's work on that, and so on. I think they've been doing an excellent job, but they're being misled by their leadership.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's my view in relation to it. But Bola,
Sure.
before I go, there's no way I could call and not offer my condolences. First to the friends and family of the late Elvin Nimrod. Yeah. As you know, Brother Bola, it's an individual that I had a very close relationship with. Up to this, the last time I saw him, I was actually on the port when he was coming down from Carriacou.
Okay.
And I saw him, and as soon as he see me, Kakabawi, because I know that was a thing between between me, him, and one or two others, that we would call each other Kakabawi.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one hit me kind of hard to hear when he died. Indeed, I believe that he was a great individual, that he has done a lot, not just for Carriacou and Petit Martinique, because for people who have been traveling to Carriacou and Petit Martinique and to see those islands back in the, let's say, the early 1990s, at a point in time when they even had individuals who were the prime minister of the country and representing Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and to see how, when he came in, how he was able to guide the development of Carriacou and Petit Martinique to where it is right now, and to set that platform so that Carriacou and Petit Martinique could move forward. I mean, even when you look at the victory in 2003 general election, remember Honorable Elvin Nimrod, that ensured Grenada didn't face Hurricane Ivan with another certain prime minister. 7 votes, 7 votes in Carriacou under the Honorable Elvin Nimrod were the reason that Grenada did not face Hurricane. Because if we had to face Hurricane Ivan under the team at that time, with what happened to that team.
You're gone. Wonder what happened to the team.
I'm not sure. It seems like we lost him, but
yeah,
I'm quite sure he's going to call back. I'm quite sure. But he was making a very good point, Mr. Bola, as it relates to the teachers. It's, and we've said it, it is not them in particular, but it is because sometimes you have to look at the leadership. You have to look at what they are being, and that's why I said, what could they have possibly said to put out a letter that says, we understand the situation? What could they have possibly said to the entire membership to come back with that kind of a resolution? And that is what baffles me. That we understand the situation, we are aware of a situation, but we do not care enough to acknowledge the situation or to make the necessary changes to help the situation. Because at the end of the day, in the long run, The long run is what we have to look at. You know? The future.
Well, you're running a mile.
In the long run, when we have to focus on now building back the economy, and I think in the Prime Minister's speech for independence, he did speak to that.
The
that
area of main focus.
Main focus would be to re-stimulate the economy, to get it going again, so that persons can continue getting salaries, but also to ensure that those who are gravely affected, those who do not currently receive a salary as a result of, can now put food on, well, money in their pocket so that they can put food on their table and meet their basic needs, meet their basic requirements. These are the things that government has to also focus on. So Sheldon is absolutely correct. While the union is focused on their own personal gain as individuals, political
Could you remember someone asked, what is the motive at the end?
What is the motive? That's the motive. While they are focused on their political mileages out of this, government has to focus on the same union leaders who live within the state of Grenada, the membership that they represent, but also the wider community, the constituents that they represent, the students that are not yet back to Grenada but out there seeking education, the diaspora as well, and how decisions we make here could affect them. These are all of the things that government has to take into consideration.
Well, that's just some of the things. Government has a multiplicity of things that they have to look at. And we have said that, you know, while that is happening, we don't consider teachers, public servants in general. And I think we have repeatedly said so, as bad people, and that it is within their rights to demand what is rightfully theirs and everything. We are not in disagreement with them for wanting or being boisterous about not getting. All we're saying is that they need to understand what the present situation is, why, and they said the
not
teachers
understand it because they understand it.
That's what I'm saying. The letter from the GUT says we understand. Government told us, and we understand. So we know they understand. What is the motive? And I was glad that Sheldon was able to verify what we have been saying all year on, that while those silent and soft protests is ongoing, it is only being adhered to by some teachers. And he clarified that up to yesterday. While yesterday was yesterday was branded as no text day, there was still some students who got work. So it meant that some teachers are sympathetic enough and understanding enough to do it. And there are some are probably following blindly, yeah? Maybe some just feel, especially some of the younger ones, not understanding the intricacies of what the actions can lead to, may just be going along with the game.
And some are also not blindly doing it, but doing it because of political influences, or doing it because they feel that, well, if we do, I want my money from Kit Mitchell, as if Kit Mitchell had the money in his pocket.
Well, someone on the live did make a comment very similar to that, saying that some people think that by doing what they're doing, that they're going to hurt the political leader and prime minister. But be that as it may, we really appeal, as in the union's words, when they say be that as it may, be that as it may, we still have a nation that needs our undivided attention. We still have a population that we have to look out for. Each and every one of us must do our own little part, must do what is necessary to ensure that we get through these most challenging times and come out at the other end better off than we went into it, than we went into this pandemic. And there are some groups of people, some groups of workers that sometimes we just forget in talking about all of those, and we talk about the tourism sector. But it's a while we have not even mentioned the returnees from the cruise ship. Sheldon mentioned it this morning. They seem to have slipped through the crack. But I recall the days when our own people was clamoring for the government to do what is necessary to bring them back home. When they were stuck out there on some of these cruise liners, when there were hardly any flights, and government had to virtually work magic in some instances. I mean, there were some that based on the cruise ship they were on and where they were in the world, they were able to get them to St. Vincent, to Barbados, to different places, and they were transshipped there. But there were a couple of others that were way out there, some as far as the Middle East and some of the Eastern European countries. And a lot of networking had to be done in order to get them back here. But today, how come we not care? We don't care about them anymore. Why
because
do we only think?
Job, to come here to no job.
To no job. They have no job. You know, they are laid off, they get no income. And today we don't even want to have concern for these very people who we say, these are our people, we can't leave them out there. And it was very loving and caring of our Grenadian people to ask to get them back home. And today the government is saying, look, if we do have a little resources, we need to still look at these people, take a bit of care of them. And then those of us who already have a means of income, small as it may be, and no one is saying that what you have is sufficient for you. You too may be struggling, but your struggle may not be as great as those who have nothing.
Absolutely.
You know, as I was explaining this morning, it's not always about equality, but it's about being equitable with the little that you have. Some people's needs are greater than others. Some people need to get a little more than others. What we need to do as a people is to be more thorough in the way in which we think things out, in the way we implement. Let's stop looking at faces and friendship. Let's look at the needs where they are, especially in these times, because there are a lot of people out there who have no alternative. Nothing else to turn to. They have utilized every single option that was already available to them. They have done everything they know how to do to get them that far. And now they sit hands out, hands open, as we say, heart in hand. Only hope that they have is that government may be able to do something to rescue them. So I appeal to all to take into consideration.
You know, I looked at a very unfortunate video yesterday, and I call it unfortunate because I don't... Anyway, I tired say I don't understand. The individual took out of their precious time to go to social media to speak about the... what did the Prime Minister call it? That social account, that
social fund
that they want to put together for individuals, and
he said he will be proposing
that they do so, and he went further to say that he would be the first to take out of his salary or to
well, you want to be the first? I already contribute to the thing. You inform me that my contribution is there. So what happened to him?
And that individual took time to sit on social media and to say, not my money, and went further to talk about the needs of individuals, and that when we get our salaries, by the time we pay bills and so on, the money done. And Mr. Bola, I think sometimes we don't think about the impact our words can have on the minds of people, how far our influence can reach. And while that person's situation, as unique as it may be, or as common as it may be, is unfortunate, and they may not be able to put as much as someone else, it is unfortunate that they would see it necessary to go to social media and make that known and politicize it. You know, it's these same people that post comments about give the teachers their damn money and all of these things. And it hurts my heart, Mr. Bola, to think that where government can see it fit to, as you say, make equitable decisions on how the revenue is dispersed, or in other words, more layman terms, how they share the money. It is unfortunate that people would make these kind of, you know, there are people out there who really just try and just can't make it. There are people whose circumstances are so dire that they need more than just a little handout. And that social fund can revolutionize some of these people's lives, can make such a big change in the lives of some people, can help with the immediate needs, the unforeseen circumstances that some people are placed in. It's not a fund that is there to be a handout for every individual who say, I have a need. But as the Prime Minister said, an analysis would be done by a private committee and it would be shared on a needs basis. So if you don't have, Mr. Bola, if I don't have, if another person doesn't have, because of genuine causes, I understand that everybody will not be able to contribute because everybody has their own individual needs. But to go to social media and doing that with the intention of inciting others to not contribute, because that is what is going to happen eventually, you know. Somebody's going to say, hey, she saying she don't contribute. Well, who is it like me I don't contributing?
Well, you know, having said all of that, Ms. Duncan, I just want to add, when the Prime Minister said or spoke about that issue in his speech, independent speech, I think he did make it absolutely clear that it was not a situation where they were going to Parliament to legislate anything, to force anybody. It is not a tax, and it is not mandatory. So that individual who took to social media has that right not to contribute if they so desire.
Absolutely.
But they also have the right if they want to tell people not to contribute. But we've said that everyone should have a mind of their own and should be thinking clearly and don't allow themselves to be used as rubber stamp so that everybody can just stick you and stamp you on a paper, make you do as they wish. It is left to your consciousness and your conscience, which was one of the words that the Prime Minister used in his speech. Let your conscience be your guide.
Yep.
So for that person who took to social media, in case you didn't understand, you don't have to. No one is forcing you.
Yeah.
It is all up to you and your love for humanity, your love for mankind, and whether or not you think that you are in a position, as bad as things may be with all of us, to make a contribution for those who are worse off than us. You know, it was even on this program that I once gave a little story that I learned a long time ago of this gentleman who said that things were so tough and challenging with him, and he could not see a means of how he will continue to survive. So he felt it was best then to end his life because, you know, he said he had his last meal, he used his last dollar, he's not working, there's no way. He said, I just can't make it anymore. So he got his piece of rope and decided that that was it. He will end his life by hanging. He got up to the tree, tied the rope onto a branch, made the noose and put it in his neck. And then he touched his pocket and realized he had one ripe banana left. So he prayed and said to God, look, you know, forgive me for whatever wrongs I've done. I'm going to have my last meal and, you know, end it here. He ate the banana, dropped the skin, and just looked down before he jumped. And when he looked down, he saw another man at the bottom of the tree eating the skin of the banana that he dropped. And he suddenly realized that, you know, life is tough with me. Things are hard with me. But it's probably worse for some others.
Yeah.
There he was thinking that that's it for him. And he decided no longer he could have made it. And you have a gentleman eating his remains, the skin of the banana. That is true. Yes? So, my dear, it's challenging for you, it might be bad for you, but there are some people whose situation may be worse than you. My friends, I want to end today on those words and tell us it is up to each and every one of us. We have a mind of our own. We have a brain that we can think for ourselves. We have a level of consciousness and a conscience that we should use to help guide us. Let's always attempt to do what's correct, even when we do not feel like doing it. You know, I've said when I've been in active politics, my motto, and it still remains with me up to today, always said, not doing what's popular, but what's correct.
Yeah,
Let's attempt to do that.
absolutely.
We are happy that you were able to join us today. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for those who called. Let us wish you a happy Thursday. But let us recognize that our country is again at this time facing a crossroads. Many of us are there already. Some of us are getting there. Let's think wisely, make the correct decision, and choose the correct path that will bring growth, that will bring development, that will bring an ease of pressure to those of us in this country that are under pressure.
Absolutely.
Do the right thing.
All right.
At the right time.
And what a way to end. Guys, we have come to the end of our program for today. As we say here every day, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you. We don't ever want to be talking about you. So please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the National Report. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Grenada receives first shipment of 1,000 COVID-19 vaccines. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021, I am Sherry-Ann Noel. Minister for Health Honorable Nicholas Steele on Wednesday received on behalf of the Government of Grenada the first 1,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines to be administered to 500 frontline workers. The AstraZeneca vaccine, or COVID Shield, is manufactured in India. It was made available through the initiative of Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, who coordinated the delivery of some of her country's first batch of vaccines to OECS countries. Honorable Steele said this particular vaccine is one of the front runners among those already produced and has been approved for use in the United Kingdom and the European Union. The vaccine also meets the criteria that Grenada has identified for selection. Wednesday, February 10th, Honorable Steele says, marks the beginning of the light at the end of the tunnel, where we hope to see the end of the COVID-19 threat that we have been surviving and dealing with to date.
This first 1,000. Then later on today or tomorrow, we have another 5,000 doses. And then in a couple of weeks, we will have 40,000 doses. Once we know that all processes are there, then we will see more and more coming in until we get to that critical amount of about 60,000 individuals in Grenada receiving the vaccine.
The receiving party included Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sean Charles, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health Dr. Francis Martin, and Dr. George Mitchell, member of the COVID-19 Response Committee. They all made statements that reaffirmed Grenada's capacity to store the vaccines and the importance of it being administered in the fight against the virus.
This vaccine is one that our current system is fully capable of accommodating and distributing using all of the current storage facilities and distribution mechanisms that we've been using over the years for all of the vaccines. This one requires normal temperature for storage, that is between 2 to 8 degrees, and it will go a long way in assisting us in making it available once we get sufficient quantities, making it available to throughout the country.
I am quite happy and pleased that we are at this juncture, because now we will be able to get our persons vaccinated and hopefully help our lives to return to normal, and hopefully also help in the general administration of health to be able to get back to some level of normalcy, helping to open our economy and so on. So it is a very pleasant moment for me. Having been there from the start of the COVID till now, this is probably the best day I've had since the start of COVID.
Vaccines is not anything that is unusual to us. We've been vaccinated from day one. And by all public health standards, vaccination has saved the most lives with all public health measures that has been taken throughout the world. So I want to put up my hand and say, Minister, I want my vaccine, please. I want to be vaccinated. Thank you.
The vaccine was transported by the Regional Security Systems RSS plane. Moving along, Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sean Charles says frontline workers will be the first in line to receive the COVID-19 vaccination. Outlining the order of priority for the vaccination rollout plan on Wednesday, Dr. Charles said law enforcement, customs and immigration officers, accommodation workers, individuals with underlying health conditions, and persons over the age of 65 will also be given top priority.
First, we're going to target populations with significantly elevated risk of being infected. And also, one of the objectives is to protect the continuing functioning of essential services, including health services. As such, our first order of priority would be our frontline staff. All right? Starting with our healthcare staff. And of course, when we speak about healthcare, this includes all persons serving in the healthcare setting who have the potential for direct or indirect exposure to COVID-19. We have to protect those who bear significant additional risk or burdens of COVID-19 to safeguard the welfare of others. So we have other essential workers, such as law enforcement, and that includes immigration and prisons and so on. We have persons who are employed at nursing homes. We have persons who work in the accommodation sector, at quarantine sites. We have persons who provide services to the aircraft, like cleaning and so on aircraft. We have our airport taxis. All of these are included.
The AstraZeneca vaccine will be administered to healthcare workers as early as next week. During Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Dr. Charles said while taking the vaccine is not mandatory, it is a welcome intervention that he hopes will contain the spread of the virus. He describes it as an additional protection to safety and sanitary measures already in place. This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Are you gonna wear your mask today? You see everywhere you go, there are rules you got to follow, so don't you say COVID-19 will delay. Take the opportunity to save your community. Don't be that guy, put a mask on your face if you're heading outside. It's your life, my life, more lives will be taken if we don't try. If you feel any symptoms, call the hotline. Stay inside until you feel fine. 6 feet away every day. Keep COVID-19 far from away. Keep Grenada safe. Be COVID-19 smart.
Welcome back. Grenada currently has no active or new confirmed cases of COVID-19. However, Minister for Health and Social Security, Honorable Nicholas Steele, says Cabinet has decided that the nightly curfew will remain in place. There will be a change to the time to reflect the nightly curfew of 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And this is to accommodate farmers, fishermen, and others who engage in early morning activities.
We have recognized, as we have seen with other Caribbean islands and worldwide, that at present, the current strains of COVID-19 are extremely unforgiving. That if you allow complete free movement within your country and COVID does get in, as has been shown, the possibility of it getting in, no matter how strict or stringent our policies are at the border, same with other countries as well, that by the time you pick it up, it is too late to control it. And as such, regrettably, we do need to continue with the curfew from the 10 p.m. It is going to the 4 a.m., as I've said. We hope that there will be a chance in the not too distant future to remove or reduce further the hours of curfew, but it all depends on the threat to Grenada based on the presence of COVID at our borders.
Being able to boast of no new or active COVID-19 cases at this time is testament to Grenada's hard work to keep the country safe. Grenada has conducted 20,819 PCR tests. There were 148 confirmed cases, 147 recoveries, and 1 death. Data was outlined by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sean Charles during Wednesday's post-cabinet briefing. He provided further updates on Grenada's current status with the global pandemic.
There are no new positive cases. In fact, at present, we have 0 active cases. We have no active cases being monitored and isolated. We have completed a total of 20,819 RT-PCR tests. As I said, we have no one in isolation, and we have 197 persons at various stages in the quarantine process, and these are individuals who have traveled to Grenada, and we will test them once the time has arrived for their test to be done. And to date, we have had a total of 6 persons hospitalized, and of course we have no one at present in hospital. So this is where we stand at present. We have 0 active cases at present in Grenada. I must admit it took a lot of work to get to this point, and we want to say thanks to the public for assisting us along the way in getting to where we are at present.
And finally in the news, the conversation surrounding the urgent need to increase the use of renewable energy and reduce the cost of electricity continues. On Tuesday, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, held the first in a series of public consultations of 2021, geared towards regulating Grenada's electricity sector. The PURC, which is guided by the 2016 Electricity Act, is charged with reducing the national reliance on imported fossil fuel and Grenada's carbon footprint through the supply of electricity from renewable energy resources. Consultations towards lowering the cost of electricity in Grenada began in 2019, but were placed on hold due to the restrictions imposed as a result of COVID-19. Acting Chief Executive Officer Dr. George Matthew emphasized that sustainable electricity means sustainable development. He said the aim is to ensure sustainability, affordability, and to secure electricity for the future.
We are seeking and we want to ensure that the regulations secure our future, right? And a future that we envision, and that's from a policy orientation, and then we have the PURC as the regulating body, basically ensuring that we are in the long term not going to follow the pathway that leads to disorientation, but to follow a green future, right? A green economy in that sense. So basically we want to be free from fuel poverty. So in essence, we want security of electricity supply, and we want to ensure that we are reducing our CO2 emissions, and that's what ties into a nationally determined contribution, or sustainability, the 2035 goals that we have, and the 2030 goals, right? In essence, your sustainable electricity means that you have sustainable development. So if we have an electricity supply that is affordable, secure, sustainable, we know for sure that in the long term, Grenada and Grenadians would benefit a lot, because we're going to have a lot of sustainable development taking place.
Engineer Davril Bowler says Grenada has huge sustainable renewable energy potential, which with investment can reduce the dependence on fossil fuel and lower the cost of electricity.
Geothermal, wind, including offshore, and solar resources. The potential renewable energy capacity is estimated at 120.5 megawatts, including 50 megawatts of geothermal, 50 megawatts of solar, 20 megawatts of wind energy, and 0.5 megawatts of hydro. Therefore, the power sector has the potential to diversify its generation mix through investment and scale up on renewables, and reduce the dependence on imported fossil fuels and lower electricity costs. Now, I know there is a unidimensional thinking when we refer to Grenada and renewables, where a lot of people are eager to jump to solar. But as we can see here, our sun-kissed land of smiles is not just solar. There's a lot of opportunity for other means of renewables.
And with that story, we come to the end of the National Report for Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Now for a recap of the top story. Grenada receives first shipment of 1,000 COVID-19 vaccines. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Sherry Ann Noel, thanking you for viewing.